Hey guys, Bam here, and welcome to another reaction video. Now, I know I haven't posted last week because I had to attend to a funeral. My great uncle passed. Rest in peace, great uncle Poke. Sure, I never really known him, but on my mom's side, she knew him. Always gotta pay respect for the dead. Losing loved ones is just not that easy. Sad days will come. They're just unpredictable. But anyways, welcome to another reaction video. Now, the angle is a little different. I have my room rearranged. No TV is on. It's just the PC light. This video is created by Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob himself. And remember SCP-1128 the Aquatic Horror? I'm back on that one. Because last I reacted was the SCP Foundation animated. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll pop it up on the edit screen. Since two people who don't know what or who is the Aquatic Horror, the Aquatic Horror is basically an SCP that lives in the ocean. If you even read or see something that describes SCP-1128, you will appear into its domain, no matter how deep the water is, of the actual depth. Even if there's just a splash of water, you will see it. Even in a glass, a little tiny glass, you will see it, because your insanity rate will rise, as you can still see the memory of SCP-1128. It is horrifying. If that happens in real life, you all be wetting your pants. And I ain't saying that as a water joke or anything like that. Since I did react to the video, the one that I titled SCP-1128 is worse than the Megalodon. But this time, I'm gonna watch how Dr. Bob describes it. But anyways, let us react to the horror. More videos about Dr. Bob I will react to. Make sure you go give him some credit.
Something dark and impossibly huge moves beneath the surface of the water. A woman in a kayak paddles across the surface of a lake, following behind a few other kayakers. She starts to fall behind and paddles faster to keep up. For some reason, she's growing noticeably.
Oh yeah. Seeing the 3 hours, I'm not doing 3 hours. I just want to see SCP-1128.
More and more anxious as she paddles.
It's gonna take like
She
21
keeps
minutes,
glancing down
or
at
maybe
the water,
11.
eyes
I don't
wide,
remember.
sweat beading on her forehead. We can't see what she sees.
It's only gonna take like 20 minutes, almost.
But something down there is terrifying her. She paddles faster, 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 and doesn't see the rock up ahead. She hits it, her kayak tipping over, dumping her into the water. She splashes frantically, trying to tip the kayak back over and climb to safety. But just as she's about to grab hold of the edge of the boat, something unseen yanks her down into the water, out of sight. As the other kayakers turn around to see where she went, they see the capsized kayak and bright red blood blooming across the water. The young woman sits back in her chair, pushing her sunglasses up onto her head to get a better look at the book she's leafing through. She takes a long, deep breath, relishing the smell of salt and seaweed, coconut-scented sunscreen, and sun-baked sand. She stretches her legs, feeling the sand between her toes, almost too warm to be comfortable.
Honestly, I've been to the beach before. It was over in North Carolina visiting my sister. Really felt nice since I feel in the sand.
But not quite.
Really want to go there again.
It's a perfect day at the beach, warm but breezy, bustling but not too crowded. It's the best way to kick off summer break after the
For me, going to the water, I'm more of a pool person. I don't swim in salt water.
exhausting grind of exams. She glances up from her book and watches with an amused smile as her best friend trudges his way out into the water, wearing the unwieldy water shoes she always gently mocks him for. They slosh with every step, so loud she can almost hear them over the rush of the tide. But he doesn't care about what he looks like. He only cares about what knowledge the sea has to offer. He's an ecology major with plans to become a marine biologist and uncover the mysteries of the deep. So it's a given that he's taking the first opportunity to poke around in the water. As an English literature major herself, the young woman will stick to the dry, sunny beach chair, the book, and an ice-cold lemonade. Even though the two are opposites in many ways, they've always gotten along, ever since they first met during freshman orientation. He teaches her about sharks, she teaches him about postmodernist fiction, and they both broaden their horizons. It works. Why question it too much? She got a bit lost in the reminiscence, watching her friend in his natural element, but the heat is starting to get to her, and she could use a little refreshment. She reaches for her drink, taking a sip, and glances back out at the water. Wait, where'd he go? He was right there. But all of a sudden, she can't spot him anymore. She's getting ready to call out his name when she sees a hand break the surface of the water, followed by another hand, both splashing wildly. Her best friend emerges, paddling, gasping for air. Her stomach drops with the sudden realization that something is terribly wrong. He starts to scream. The sound is swallowed when he's pulled back under the water once more. She calls out for help, signals the lifeguard, but by the time help reaches him, her friend is gone. Not dead, not a body floating on the waves, just vanished. The only thing left of him is a dark bloom of blood, visible even from the shore. All at once, the picture-perfect day at the beach is cut short by tragedy, and the young woman falls to her knees in despair, barely even feeling a thing as the tide rushes in around her. In the days that follow, she can't fathom doing any of her original summer vacation plans. The two of them were supposed to be enjoying the break together, but instead, he's gone, and she doesn't even have a body for the funeral. She can't stop replaying the moment over and over in her mind. One moment, he was absolutely fine, enjoying a swim and looking for different wildlife, and the next, he was drowning, screaming. What could have been responsible for a sudden disappearance like that? At first, she assumed it must have been a shark attack, in spite of all her friends' efforts to persuade her that sharks were nothing to be afraid of. There's no such thing as shark-infested waters, he often repeated.
Oh, really? Because last I checked, there were actually shark-infested waters somewhere that I heard on the news. I can't exactly remember where, but it has to be somewhere probably I don't know, California, Florida, somewhere that has some place that has oceans. And I've seen on the news that sharks have been swimming around the beach just to try to find food. And they try the best they could to lure them away so beachgoers can actually go into the ocean without getting eaten. Still a possibility that some people still get attacked by sharks, even when they still want to relax at the beach. And the only time why I only stay on, and that's kind of one of the only reasons why I stay close to land. I'm not trying to swim out in the ocean and just drown. And honestly, the first time I went to the beach, I felt like Luffy when he was just jumping around, like he's excited, seeing some new stuff around areas. Like I was jumping around just like Luffy, being an idiot.
We infest the waters. They just live there. Even so, she couldn't come up with a better explanation than a shark. But when she brought up the idea to the lifeguard on duty, he insisted that it couldn't have been a shark. There hadn't been any spotted in the area, not during the day and that close to shore. Besides, and he put this as delicately as he possibly could, if a shark had gotten a hold of her friend, there would have been some pieces to find. With no body, no answers, and no closure, she spends her days clearing out his room in the campus apartment they shared. Going through his things, sorting out what to send back to his family, what to donate, what to keep. It helps her feel close to him, even though he's gone. And if she's being completely honest with herself, part of her is still clinging to the hope that she might find some sort of explanation here. She boxes up the remainders of his books and is just about to leave for the day when she spots one that she missed. It doesn't look like any of his textbooks or the non-fiction he was so fond of reading in his free time. It's an old, worn, leather-bound volume, tucked under the bed like a secret. She sets the box down and reaches under the bed for the book. Its spine is unmarked, no title to be found. Her curiosity
That's the book,
now
isn't
more
it?
than ever. She cracked.
That's the book about SCP-1128, isn't it? Because like I I said earlier, if you write a description about it, you're just going to end up immersed into the water where you find like he'll find you if you swim in any or drink anything that has water. You're just going to be teleported to where it is. So that's why I even learned from the rubber. Another SCP animator. I was about to say, since how are they being teleported if they are not at where SCP-1128 is? Even I was thinking, like, did he like go to that place? Swim to that place? Because he could be anywhere in the ocean. I wonder what it looks like when Dr. Bob drew him.
Cracks it open. The room fills
I
with
don't
the
know
scent of mildew
I don't know
and
its
dust.
gender.
The book smells as old as it looks. The title page has been ripped out, but as she begins to peruse its contents, she sees descriptions of ancient sea monsters.
I was about to say that was him. That was it. A sea monster? And what was
But
that?
as she begins to peruse its contents, she sees
I can't even think of the name of that monster that I see right on screen now. Because if I remember that type of monster, it has arms. Like, actual arms. And it can grab you and just eats you. I thought it was like some kind of creepy pasta. I can imagine that it could have its own movie. Swim around, grab things, and just eats it.
descriptions of ancient sea monsters, of unfathomable horrors of the
Swamp
deepest
monster?
ocean. It's a book about aquatic folklore. Why didn't he tell her he was reading this? They could have bonded over folktales, over him enjoying something fictional for once. She considers tossing the book in the box with the rest, but instead, she slips it into her bag, feeling closer to her lost friend than she has since some unknown force took him from her. That night, as she's preparing for bed in her own room, trying not to think about the uncanny silence of the newly vacant room across the hall, she cracks open the old book again. She thumbs through the pages, skimming the accounts of leviathans and krakens, taking in the intricate illustrations of sea-dwelling beasts. She turns the page and freezes, eyes locked on the illustration there. Something is different about this one, though she can't put it into words. Its face, its enormous, monstrous shape. It makes...
Really? This image of SCP-1128? Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I would actually be horrified seeing something like that in real life. Even I'm gonna need some amnestics to forget what that thing looks like. What it looks like on the picture.
Sweaty and seasick. Her hands tremble, scarcely able to maintain their grip on the book. None of the other creatures illustrated here have made her feel like this, like she's truly locking eyes with a deadly predator. She slams the book shut, and the feeling of dread ebbs away. It's just a book. It's just a drawing. It can't do anything to her. Besides, it isn't as if it's real. That night, she tosses and turns, her mind tormented by visions of deep, dark water crushing her with its pressure, of gasping for breath, and swimming for a surface she can't quite reach. All the while, she feels something swimming just below, rising up from the ocean floor. In her dream, she wants to turn and look, but she can't bring herself to do it. She knows what she'll see, opening its mouth to swallow her whole. When she wakes the next morning, her heart is still racing, and her sheets are soaked with sweat. She takes a moment to remind herself that it was only a dream, that she's safe and sound in her bedroom on dry land. She peels herself out of bed and walks down the hall to the bathroom to take a shower. But when she turns the knob and water begins to gush from the shower head, her stomach turns. The idea of getting into the shower starts her heart pounding again, adrenaline coursing through her veins and begging her to flee. She turns the shower off, and the anxiety abates. No shower today, then? That's fine. It's just a bit of the previous night's dreams lingering. As the day goes on, it'll pass, and she'll feel like herself again. But all day, the feeling persists. She walks by the public pool and shudders at the sight of children playing in the water. She crosses the street.
Talk about a worst case of aquaphobia. Not gonna lie, if I was in her state, I would also feel like I would have gotten aquaphobia. I don't know how many times have I told the story that I literally had dreams of being underwater and I fear to stick and I fear to even go near the ocean. The pool is fine, but me in the ocean, yeah, you're gonna expect me like a cat not want to go into water.
to avoid a sprinkler spraying someone's lawn. She jumps over a puddle with the intensity of someone avoiding stepping on a landmine. She's never felt like this before. Grief can take a lot of unusual shapes. Could this be another one of them? She ducks into a nearby coffee shop and settles at a table with her laptop. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, and she wills herself to look up coping mechanisms for grief and unusual anxiety. But her instincts kick in, and she types something else entirely. Unexplained disappearances in water. She scrolls through stories about tragic drownings, cars sinking into swamps, and murder victims dumped in lakes. Then, a headline catches her eye. Local man vanished in swimming pool, families say. She clicks the link and finds a story that feels eerily familiar. A family was enjoying a day at the pool when one of the children pushed his father into the pool as a joke. He seemed to panic upon entering the water, thrashing violently, before disappearing entirely. Though the water was clear, they couldn't see him anymore. He never resurfaced. A wave of nausea washes over her as she realizes that this has happened before. How many times? She continues her search, reading about similar disappearances in lakes, hot tubs, and even one man who vanished in a charity dunk tank. Several of the reports describe the missing persons as developing an unusual fear of water prior to their disappearances. Sometimes there is blood left behind. Sometimes there's no trace at all. But with every story,
I'm gonna have to guess that someone that has to be like a author and just published this book. Because there ain't no way it's just one book out there. There has to be copies of it. And people are disappearing because they're reading the description of 1128.
the result is the same. Someone is inexplicably pulled under the water, and they are never seen again. But why? She searches for a common thread between the stories, something that could link them together. Is it possible it's all just random? But then, she spots something, a throwaway line in the first article. The missing man was a cryptid enthusiast, particularly obsessed with the Loch Ness Monster and aquatic creatures. Another was a writer, researching for a monster movie set on a fishing boat. Another was the president of her high school folklore club. It hits her like a bolt of lightning. Of course, all these people were led to their...
How's that? Is that Stephen King? When he was younger or something? I don't know. He just kind of reminded me of Stephen King. He was the guy that made It. You know, Pennywise.
It hits her like a bolt of lightning. Of course, all these people were led to their horrible fates through the research they were doing. And when did she begin feeling this state of dread? When she'd looked into that terrible, nightmarish book she'd found at her friend's home. The same book that's now sitting in a drawer in her desk. Her thoughts race with all the horrible possibilities. Could it be some form of psychosis she's dealing with? Or something even more terrifying? An honest-to-God curse of some kind? A supernatural affliction that put her in the crosshairs of some terrible underwater beast? She grabs the book out of her desk, wondering if maybe taking another look at the thing that started all this could dispel her fear. There had to be some kind of rational explanation, but she can't bring herself to turn the page. Just the thought of looking at that monster again makes her head feel light and causes her skin to break out in a cold sweat. Suddenly, she feels parched. If she doesn't get some cold water to drink, she might pass out. With no time to waste, she runs for her ensuite bathroom, grabbing a clean glass from one of her cabinets and filling it with nice, cold water. But as she lifts the glass up to her mouth, she feels another injection of that impossible, icy dread. Is that something moving in the bottom of the glass?
I wouldn't go near that.
Involuntarily, her grip loosens, and the glass of water falls to the floor, shattering. She screams and vaults away, not startled by the flying pieces of shattered glass, but genuinely terrified by the puddle that's now on the floor. She feels an inescapable sense that death is lurking in a small puddle rapidly sinking into her dorm room carpet. That moment clinches it. She needs to find some way to solve this, or she'll inevitably go down one of two paths. On the first path, she'd turn into a reclusive, paranoid wreck, forever fearing the dark fate that may or may not come. On the second, she'd be just like her friend, a red smear on the surface of some unknown body of water. Her research rabbit hole becomes an all-consuming obsession. She stops going to classes altogether, building a spider wall of newspaper clippings and printed-off articles on her wall. There are so many disappearances and inexplicable events around water she believes may be related to this aquatic horror. It takes weeks of research to find something she can actually use. Another survivor, one just like her, who'd encountered the creature and used his smarts to survive. After a few emails and calls, proving that she wasn't just some tourist fascinated by madness, the other survivor agrees to meeting at his house in Nebraska, the only triple landlocked state in the U.S. She drives several hours to reach the home of the other survivor. When he meets her at the door, she's a little taken aback by his appearance. He's a young man, but he's got the chapped, weathered skin of someone much older. His hair is burnt and stringy, his lips glistening with dead skin. He's clearly cultivated a kind of dryness that most humans would consider unhealthy.
Let me guess, not drinking water? I'm not a doctor, but if you don't drink any water, you'll be dehydrated. And you'll probably turn out like this. Yeah, at this point, you're going to need some amnestics to forget that image in your head so you can finally feel like your old self again. Because that's the only way to forget what he looks like, what that giant monster looks like. If not, then you're just going to die from paranoia. And that's only if you're away from the water. And yep, only water, just water. If it's not water, it's okay. If not, then you're screwed. You're fish food.
When she enters the survivor's home, she's immediately greeted by the hum of multiple dehumidifiers going off at once, giving the air a stifling, desert-like feel. Every inch of the floor is covered in newspapers, ready to soak up any moisture that might fall. Seeing all the procedures that the survivor needs to go through just to avoid the aquatic horror fills her with a different kind of horror. Is she looking at her future right now? Is it worth surviving this thing if this squalor and paranoia is what survival looks like? The survivor explains his long and sordid tale. He'd once been a deep-sea fisherman when one fateful night changed his life forever. While they were trawling the vast and distant oceans, they'd picked up a man flailing in the water who told them an impossible story. Just moments ago, he'd been in his bathtub when something dragged him underneath. When the survivor and the rest of the crew asked him what had done this to him, he described a terrible and immense beast underneath the waves, and just the description was enough. In the following weeks, one by one, the other members of the crew disappeared, all during circumstances dealing with water. The survivor developed a crippling fear of all things water and has since moved to Nebraska to get further away from his fear. As far as he's aware, there's no cure, just a way to eke out your existence and minimize risk. But of course, even if your risk of encountering water is low, it's never zero, as these two unfortunate people are about to find out. There's a thunder crack above the house, a genuine bolt from the blue, as huge, ominous storm clouds roll in.
That's
Then
not
comes
good.
the rain, the worst rainfall that Nebraska has seen in decades. Hammering down on the roof of the survivor's house while he and the young woman wait inside. The roof would only hold it back for so long, and as another great doctor once said, water always wins. The young woman and the survivor begin to panic. The panic will do them no good. The house has sprung a leak. Water is dripping from the ceiling and slithering down the walls, disintegrating the newsprint and forming deep, dark puddles on the floor. The duo tries to escape, but the second they accidentally step into a patch of wet, they're pulled down into the dark, gasping, flapping, and struggling for breath. They're not in Nebraska anymore. They're floating in the middle of a vast and impossible ocean with no land in sight. Below them, in the murky waters, something impossibly huge moves. It's futile to escape. In her quest to understand what happened to her friend, she's about to gain a better understanding than she ever would have wanted, as the beast rises from the depths and closes its jaws around them both. SCP-1128 is an enormous aquatic predator that only manifests to those who are aware of what it looks like. Anyone given a full description of the entity's appearance, or who has seen an illustration or image of the entity, will become infected by it. Once infected, a person behaves relatively normally, aside from an increased aversion to any activity that requires being submerged in water, such as swimming. If an infected person is fully submerged in water, they will disappear beneath its surface. It does not matter whether or not the water is actually deep enough for someone to be pulled beneath the surface. In fact, during one experiment, a D-class was pulled into a glass of water by the entity, at which point he disappeared from sight.
See? What did I just tell you? What did I just tell you? Even in a glass cup, you will be pulled violently in a glass cup, so SCP-1128 can eat you.
After the subject has disappeared, one of two things tends to happen next. Either they reappear in a state of panic, trying to leave the water before the entity can grab hold of them again, or the water will begin to fill with blood and other organic matter belonging to the subject. Subjects that reappeared and managed to escape the water before being attacked again have described the experience of being transported to the middle of a vast ocean, where SCP-1128 attempts to devour them.
Oh, middle of the ocean. Yeah.
These interviews provide little information on the nature of SCP-1128's methods of hunting. They must be conducted with extreme care, as they carry an inherent risk of SCP-1128 infection if the subject is a bit too descriptive in their account. Thankfully, any accidental exposure to a description of SCP-1128 can be treated with the application of amnestics. Any written descriptions or images of SCP-1128's appearance, or videos of the entity breaching the surface of the water found outside of the Foundation's custody must be destroyed, and anyone exposed to this information or showing signs of contamination is to be given Class C amnestics. A written description of SCP-1128 is to be kept at an assigned Foundation site for experimental purposes, and experimental purposes only. It may not be read by anyone other than D-Class selected for testing with the entity. If any staff are exposed, they must immediately report for administration of Class C amnestics. Any and all water traffic that passes through the area thought to be SCP-1128's usual habitat is to be intercepted by Mobile Containment Force Kappa-12, Sea Devils. They are authorized to do so by any means necessary. It's been said that we know more about outer space, the vast, endless expanse of stars and planets, than we do about the depths of our oceans. So I suppose the existence of an entity like SCP-1128 shouldn't come as too much of a surprise, amidst giant squids and nitrogen-breathing microbes. Still, one of the most comforting things about the horrors of the deep has always been, in my opinion, the certainty that we are safe from them on land. SCP-1128 is proof that, as soothing as that notion may be, it is entirely false. Danger doesn't just lurk beneath the dark, rolling surface of the ocean. It can find you in a swimming pool, a bathtub, a single glass of water. Ordinarily, I like to pursue as much independent research as I can into the topics that I cover, always in pursuit of more answers, of a broader understanding. In this particular case, however, I believe it's best to let sleeping aquatic horrors lie. SCP-1128 can remain a mystery to me. Whether it's fish, mammal, or something else we've yet to categorize, I'm happy to leave it alone, rather than wind up as its next piece of bait.
Two massive creatures are
That. I already seen this one. I don't feel like watching these two fight it out. If I want to see someone fight it out, I'd rather watch SCP-096 versus SCP-001. The Shy Guy versus the Prototype. I might do that next time. But yeah, anyways. Even some people going back on SCP-1128. 1128, some of the researchers even use a D-class to try to hurt it. But all it did was it off. Me personally, I'm always going to be forever on dry land, out away from the ocean. I'm not saying that I got aquaphobia. Maybe I do, but I'm just not trying to be somewhere close to the ocean. I mean, hey, we all got something we fear. Just ask Jason. Freddy already found his fear, and it's water. Since, he drowned as a kid and came back as a deadly killer. He probably still fear the ocean. Lake, because he drowned in Crystal Lake. Yep, 1 in the morning, I'm ready to go to bed. I'm not trying to deal with my sleep paralysis. This is going to be the last time I talk about SCP-1128, unless some people want to keep on doing more, more animation about it, or if it get in a fight with any other SCPs that is aquatic, then maybe I'll watch that. which one will win the fight, SCP-1128 or SCP, I think it was 3000. I can't even pronounce the name, but it's a giant eel monster. Anastasia. I don't know how they pronounce it, but it's something like that. Not really got much to say, but if you enjoyed, make sure you scare that like button, stab that notification bell, make sure you share my videos, make sure you subscribe for our horror content. We're found with Oak Hoodie, and I hope we see more of you in the next video, and maybe in our stream. See you all until then. And always, peace.